Hi, this is Omar at Top 5 E-Bikes, and today I'm going to review an e-bike that's made by Flyer, the Flyer L885 cargo e-bike. If you're subscribed to Top 5 E-Bikes, thank you. If you're not, what are you doing? Subscribe to our channel, like right now. I do want to thank Flyer for sending us the Flyer L885. They were awesome. Not only did they send us this e-bike, they sent me this cool t-shirt that I'm wearing, which is actually pretty cool. And they sent us a book on the history of Flyer, which is awesome. I do want to let you know though that this video contains 100% Top 5 e-bikes opinions, and Flyer did not tell us or ask us to say anything in particular. So this review is our honest review based on our feedback after writing it. There is an affiliate link in the description, so if we helped you decide on buying the Flyer L885, please use our link when purchasing, because that does help us. We do earn a small commission, and that helps us make or continue making videos like this one, so thank you. All right, so let's get to this review. In this review of this Flyer cargo e-bike, we're gonna go through the specs of this e-bike. We're gonna talk about our test rides, where we'll talk about a range test that we did, throttle only range test. We'll talk about the top speed, and then just our experience riding this bike. And I've been riding this bike now for around 100 miles, mostly with my two daughters, even though right now I don't have them with me. And then I'm gonna tell you the things that I like, the things I didn't like, and I'll give you my final thoughts on the Flyer L885. All right, let's talk about the specs of the Flyer L885. It's currently $2,000, but right now at the time that we're filming this, Flyer has a back to school sale, which is actually a really good deal, because for $2,100, so $100 more than what the bike itself costs, you get the kids basket and the carrier, which you see that I have back here. So that's actually $300, and you get a front basket, and then you get a mirror and a cell phone holder. So you get a few accessories. You end up saving $355 if you buy this package from them, which is, again, I think a really good deal. It comes in 3 different sizes, which are small, medium, and large. And according to Flyer, this is for riders that are between 4 foot 10 inches and 6 foot 6 inches. So depending on your height, you might want to pick a certain size. It comes in 4 different colors. So this is the red. It comes in blue, white, and also in black. And I'm going to start talking about the specs now, and I'm going to start off with what I normally don't start off with, which is the tires. And that's because this bike actually has a bigger front tire than the back tire. The rear tire is 20 inches. The front one is 26 inches. And these are 3-inch tires. They're puncture resistant. And the reason why I want to talk about the tires is because according to Flyer, having this bigger front tire actually is what can provide you, or does provide you, an optimal center of gravity. And we'll talk about this later in the review, but you know, this is one of the features that Flyer is excited about this e-bike. So now let's talk about the electronic components, or some of the electronic components. I'm going to start off with the battery. This is a 48 volt, 15 amp hour Samsung cell battery, so it's 687 watt hours. And the really nice thing about this, well, one thing that's cool about this battery is that it's integrated. But the other really nice thing is you have an option of adding a second battery. So you can add a second battery there. Flyer will sell it on their website for $500. So for $500, you get a second one, same specs. And so you can double your range if you were to buy this second battery. Now let's talk about the motor. The motor is a 500 watt rear hub. You can kind of see it there, brushless motor. So it's kind of tough to see there through the back of this carrier. The top speed on this is 20 miles per hour, both on throttle only and then also pedal assist. It has an LCD screen, and we'll see it here. It's kind of a small screen, especially now for e-bikes. Most e-bikes have a bigger screen, but you have a small screen. And this LCD display will show you the speed, battery charge level, pedal assist level. There's an odometer and a light indicator. There's, talking about pedal assist, there's 5 different levels of pedal assist, and this bike has a cadence sensor. It does come with Tektro brakes, which is kind of nice. You can kind of see this there. So it's nice that it has a name brand and what most consider top brakes, at least in this category or in this price range. And you have 180 millimeter rotors both on the front and the back for these mechanical brakes. There is a dual leg kickstand. So you can kind of see it here. This is a dual leg kickstand. And then there's an integrated front light, and then there's also a back light. So it's kind of nice that it has integrated lights. I also have, and this is not stock, but I have the Redshift arc light pedals, which I've done a video on. So if you're interested in these are really cool. That'll add additional visibility to you as you're riding. And then finally, talking about the throttle, you have a half twist throttle there on the right that you can see there. So as far as dimensions and weight, this e-bike is 73 pounds. So cargo e-bikes are heavy. This is no exception. This is the norm with this style of e-bike. So this one is 73 pounds. The really cool thing about this one though is that it has a a standover height of 19 inches. So that's the height between the ground and then this level right here, this point. So meaning to mount and dismount, what's the actual height? And it's the lowest height, which is 19 inches, which is actually really low. So that's a couple inches lower than say the Radwagon 4. And then the rear capacity on this e-bike is 150 pounds. So you could carry 150 pounds according to the manufacturer in the back or the rear rack of this e-bike. So now let me talk about some of the accessories. And I have one here on this e-bike, which is the kid and cargo carrier for 2 kids. So this is $299. Again, if you buy the package, you can actually get it for cheaper right now because you can get it as a package deal. But it's $299. It includes both the bar, or what other carriers called the caboose. So it includes the bar. It includes this fabric liner, which is really cool. And then it also includes these cushion seats, which are nice. So I have one of the cushion seats, and then I have a Yet Maxi. This accessory is super cool. If you're gonna buy this e-bike, I think this is almost like a given that you need this. And especially if you have younger kids. My 2 daughters love this accessory because it gives them a pouch here in the front, and you can see I got cookies. I can put my phone in here. We put juices, other stuff, water can go in there. And then it's also, not only is it functional and it looks great, because it does look great and it's cool that it's branded, it's also got some safety features. Like when this zips down, and it actually provides additional safety features for the kids to not potentially get their feet stuck in some moving part, which is kind of nice. And that's one of the reasons I really like this accessory. And then in addition to that, I mentioned that it does come with cushion seats. So if you have older kids, or one of your children is older, and then you wanted this cushion seat, for a lot of different e-bike companies, they sell you that for a decent amount of money. And with this particular accessory, it actually comes with it, which is really nice. And not only is it a great accessory for those that have children, it's also great for those that need this bike just for cargo, because you could zip these flaps, you could zip them up, and then if you zip them up, then this turns into a big cargo area that things are gonna not bounce out of your rear rack from. So anyways, this is a really cool accessory. They have other accessories, like they have the front basket with the liner. They have, a big rear rack basket that has a liner as well, and different accessories that you can find on the website. But this one in particular, for those of you that have children, is a really cool accessory. So these are the specs of the Flyer L885. All right, let's talk about my test rides. I want to start off with a disclaimer for those of you thinking about a cargo e-bike who have never ridden a cargo e-bike. These e-bikes are heavy, which can be an issue for some riders. These are also long-tail e-bikes, so the turning radius is wider, which is going to make it more difficult to make tight turns. And finally, if you're riding with precious cargo, it can take some time to get comfortable with the extra weight on the rear of the e-bike. Plus, that extra weight that you have, if it's your children, is likely going to shift. So my advice is to take your time getting comfortable with the cargo e-bike and practice. So now let me get into my actual experience riding this e-bike. At the time that I'm filming, I've ridden this e-bike about 100 miles, mostly with my 2 young daughters, and all of us really like the L885. We've mostly been riding the L885 mostly on flat terrain and some slight inclines around 75 feet elevation difference, so not anything like a really steep hill. And I think 5%, 6% grade has been the steepest hills. And most of our riding has been to the park, to the beach, to get ice cream, or even to the store. It's really comfortable for me as a person riding the e-bike. And then it's also comfortable for my daughters while also being fun for them. I think the thing is, what makes this bike great, and you could see this in just the accessories and how sleek design. Radio Flyer has a ton of experience just building toys and mobility vehicles for children. that involve the parents, and you could really see this with this e-bike. Also, the geometry of this e-bike allows riders of multiple heights to comfortably ride the bike. Plus, their innovative design with the bigger front wheel helps you control the rear rack cargo well. Now that I've told you a little bit about where and how I was using this e-bike, you're probably wondering about the performance of this e-bike. When it comes to speed, the top speed, both with pedal assist and throttle, is 20 miles per hour. And you can see this here. I'll add a screenshot from the road test that we did. This isn't going to be a racing e-bike. This is a cargo bike, and you're probably going to be carrying weight on the rear rack, so it's probably a good idea to limit the speed to 20 miles per hour. And you're likely not going to be hitting 20 miles per hour too often, especially if you have 2 children in the back or a lot of cargo. As far as range, Flyer states that the range of this e-bike is 30 to 50 miles, at least with one battery. And we actually did a throttle-only test, and we'll link it here in the video. You could see that standalone video if you're interested. But we were able to ride 24.25 miles. So the 30 to 50 mile range is actually quite accurate, since we were really close to that lower end, which I assume is throttle only. And the other thing is that it was a little bit windy that day, and I'm also around 230 pounds. So those are all factors that, you know, if you have a different rider, different day, if it's flat, I'm assuming that you could get 30 miles out of this battery. All right, so now I'm going to tell you things that I liked about the Flyer L885 cargo e-bike. And the first thing I'm going to mention is that it's an out-of-the-box family hauler. So this e-bike actually comes with the running boards. You have this modular rear rack that you can add. You have maxi, or if you buy something like this accessory, this child accessory, then it comes with cushions, and it comes with this fabric that you can use. So in my opinion, this is an out-of-the-box family hauler. So something that you could use to replace your minivan or your car if you have 2, potentially even 3 kids if you have an infant, and it can replace your car for short rides. The second thing I really liked was that it's a quality build on this e-bike. So we've unboxed a lot of e-bikes, top 5 e-bikes, and a lot of times with the weld jobs, you can actually see the weld jobs. They just don't do a really good job. They're not really smooth. On this e-bike, there's a lot of smooth weld jobs. They did a really good job. I think the other thing is they just were, in general, it's like sleek and minimalist. And in my opinion, it was just like really classy e-bike, classy looking e-bike, and it's a quality build. The third thing I really liked about this e-bike is the geometry. So already this e-bike is doing better than some other cargo e-bikes because there's 3 frame sizes. So there's a small, medium, and large. For example, the Radwagon 4, the Blix Paca, there's just one size. So you don't really have choices. With this e-bike, you're already ahead of the game in that there's 3 choices as far as sizing. But then on top of that, when it comes to the geometry, this lowest level of the e-bike, so the what they call the step over height, is 19 inches. And that's actually lower than the Radwagon. I don't know about the Blix Paca because I don't have that bike, and we could look at specs, but definitely in comparison to the Radwagon, this is lower. And so the geometry of it is great for anyone that, you know, has trouble mounting, dismounting. And I think especially if you have cargo, whether it's children or just weight in the back, the easier it is to mount and dismount is good. And with this e-bike, it has a really low step over height. And so the geometry, I think, of this e-bike is great, especially since it's a cargo bike. So the fourth thing I really liked about the Flyer L885 are the accessories and all the accessories they make available for someone who buys this e-bike. I love this particular accessory. Not only is it functional, it also looks great. And it seems like it's made out of very durable material. This particular accessory, and I talked about this in the specs, you know, you could use it with older kids, younger kids. You could use it to carry cargo. It's got pouches. You can add, there's cushioned seats. So there's quite a few functions to it. And it's also a safety feature also because the flaps actually will cover the back wheel, which could, you know, potentially help in if a kid was going to get one of their feet potentially stuck in a moving part of the bike. So not only is it functional, it's great looking, and there's other accessories. So there's a bunch of different accessories, and that's what I really like. A lot of companies that have cargo bikes, they have some accessories and they rely on third-party accessories like the Maxi or maybe some other type of accessory. Flyer actually built a bunch of these specifically for their e-bike, and I really like that. And the last thing I really liked was the range of this e-bike. I did a range test on this e-bike, and we talked about it earlier in this video. I was able to get 24.25 miles, so a little bit over 24 miles, in a throttle-only range test of this e-bike. Now, we didn't do, and I haven't done a range test on the Radwagon 4, which has the same battery. My guess is that it might be a little bit less than that. I've seen other range tests done by other YouTubers, and they've gotten around 20, low 20s. I was actually, to be honest, I was quite surprised that I was able to get 24 plus miles. I was thinking I was going to get around 20. So I think that, again, that's something I really liked about it. Battery-wise, the other really cool feature about this e-bike is that you can get a dual battery. So there's a setup here for you to install a second battery. And that's not a feature that's widely available with cargo e-bikes. There's only a couple that I know of, the Blix Paca and the Uniro Max Cargo, that offer that option. So I think that that's also something that's a really cool option if you're looking for a cargo e-bike and you need longer range. So I've told you the things that I liked about this e-bike. Now let me tell you about the things that I didn't like. The first one is the motor. This is a 500 watt motor. Now, the other cargo e-bikes that I've ridden, like the Uniro Max Cargo and the Radwagon, have 750 watt motors. And I think this motor is fine if you live in an area that's mostly flat. But if you're looking for a cargo bike and you live in a hilly area, this one might struggle going up slight inclines. And if you go back to the range test, I did reference going up slight inclines and how it slowed down, and that was without weight. So just keep that in mind, that if you live in a hilly area, then this probably is not the cargo e-bike for you. But if you live in a mostly flat area, then I think this would do fine. The second thing I didn't like was the LCD screen, and that's because it's tiny. It's pretty small. Also, it's hard to see some of the information that's displayed. You can see the speed, but some of the other stuff might be hard to see. So anyways, I think they could have done a better job of including a bigger screen and making some of the information that's displayed a little bit clearer. The third thing I didn't like about the Flyer L885 is that the rack, I think, is a little bit too short. So I actually measured the length of the rear rack relative to the Radwagon, and this one's about 3 inches shorter than the Radwagon's, and probably not that big of a deal. But when I'm installing the 2 YEP Maxis, if I had an extra inch or two, it would make it a lot easier to have clearance in the back as I'm trying to lock the seats. And so it's just kind of, a little bit tedious when you're trying to lock the seats. Now, it is possible, and you can have 2 YEP Maxis and your children are comfortable, but when you're trying to lock in the chairs, if you had an extra 2-3 inches, it would be a lot nicer. So I didn't like that the rear rack is a little bit too short. The fourth thing I didn't like about the L885 is that it has mechanical brakes. I said this about the Radwagon. I think cargo bikes should probably have hydraulic brakes. Now, in general, it's going to be fine. The stopping power is fine. These are Tektro brakes, which is nice. So at least they're branded brakes, and they're a good brand and a trusted brand. But if you're going downhill and you're carrying a lot of weight, those are the type of situations that I worry about. But in general, it should be fine. You could easily upgrade to hydraulic calipers or upgrade to full hydraulic brakes if that's something that you felt like you needed. But it's definitely something that I wish it had hydraulic brakes rather than mechanical. One other thing I didn't like about this e-bike was the dual kickstand. So it's functional, it works, but I've been using the Radwagon for a while now, and that has a solid one-piece kickstand. And it's just tougher to dismount the bike from this dual kickstand, in my opinion. So now, again, it's functional. Unlike another e-bike that I've ridden where I didn't trust that kickstand, I trust this kickstand, and it's been fine. I've been riding it for 100 miles now, and it's definitely safe. It's just that it's harder to actually bring down the bike when the kickstand is in use relative to a kickstand like the Radwagons. Now, the one thing that's kind of nice about this e-bike is you could actually replace this kickstand if you don't want this dual kickstand. And the last thing I didn't like about the L885 is that there's no suspension. Now, again, there's not a lot of cargo e-bikes in the $2,000 price range that have a suspension, although I recently did find that there is one, which is Ad Motors cargo bike, I think called the M81. So that one has a suspension, but in general, you're not going to find a suspension in a cargo e-bike that's around $2,000. So Not a huge negative, and I do think that the saving grace for this e-bike relative to, say, like the Radwagon, it has these 26-inch tires in the front that are 3 inches thick, and so that absorbs some of the impact when you're riding through terrain that's rough, but you know, there's still not a suspension. All right, so now that I've told you what I liked, what I didn't like, let me give you my final thoughts on the Flyer L885 cargo e-bike. It's been such a joy to ride this cargo e-bike, and after riding it for about 100 miles, I can confidently say that this is a formidable competitor to the Radwagon 4. I really liked how comfortable this e-bike is, how easy it was to mount and dismount, and the low center of gravity. So I really liked it. But not only did I like it, my daughters really liked it. They enjoyed being in the back of this carrier. They had a lot of fun. They liked the little features that are built into these accessories. So for me, not only did I like it, my daughters liked it. So for me, it was a winner. So there were some things that I didn't like about this e-bike. Like, I think that the motor could have been a little bit stronger. I didn't like the screen, mechanical brakes, even the kickstand. And that's more of a personal choice, but I don't think that's a blocker for most people. And depending on your situation and the terrain around where you live, this could easily be your family hauler. This could replace your car, your minivan. This could help you take the kids to soccer practice or go to the store easily. So thank you, Radio Flyer, for sending us the Cargo L885, and thank you for the cool little gifts that you sent us. I've really enjoyed riding this e-bike. My daughters have really enjoyed it. Thank you everyone for watching. Let us know if you have any questions or comments, and thank you.